Hidden under a veil of classified operations, a top-secret device exists with the ability to manipulate the world as we know it today, potentially causing destruction to everybody who lives. But what sort of technology could possess this much power? Well, you guys will have to stick around to find out. In the heart of Chicago stood a building so average, you wouldn't even give it a second glance. Yet hidden inside was a complex maze of corridors leading to a top-secret government lab. This lab was so exclusive, only the government's top scientists even knew of its existence. Most of the division's employees who worked at the facility were completely unaware of the labyrinth that lay just beneath their feet. Ethan was one of many of those employees. He was the department's analyst. He was one of those shy genius types, so he kept to himself and tried to stay out of the office drama. And since he had a solid sense of morality and believed strongly in the transparency of public affairs, he didn't really agree with what most of his coworkers had to say anyways. Yet, being just an analyst in what appeared to be a routine government office, his principles rarely had any impact on his daily tasks. That was until his next assignment. He was given a pile of financial records from a project he had never heard of before. It was cloaked in secrecy, buried deep within the government's budget. His task was to go through and make sure everything was compliant and followed government regulations. It seemed like a simple enough job on the surface. But as Ethan dug deeper into the financials, he noticed a few unusual deposits. Funds were being funneled into the project from random unknown sources, and they were throwing down massive amounts of money. This was a bit of a red flag for Ethan. Through all the years that he's worked there, he has never seen anything quite like this before. Why was so much money being poured into a project he had never even heard of? At first, he was going to let everything go and just worry about his audit. But the more he thought about it, the more curious he got. He had to get to the bottom of this. That's when he started poking around on the random files that he was given for the audit, hoping to find some sort of explanation for all this. His investigation led him to a series of encrypted files. Now, him being the tech guy that he is, he managed to unencrypt them, and what he found was beyond anything he could have ever imagined. The files contained detailed plans and scientific studies about manipulating weather patterns. There were experiments on cloud seeding, atmospheric pressure manipulation, and even hurricane direction alteration. But what truly shocked Ethan was a set of internal communications. They revealed that the project, initially pitched as a climate change mitigation effort, was being repurposed as a geopolitical tool. The intent was to use weather control as a means of dominance over other nations, potentially triggering natural disasters in enemy territories as a form of untraceable warfare. He had stumbled upon a secret that had terrifying potential, not just for national security, but for the entire world. The realization that he was a part of an organization that possessed such power completely shook him to his core. Then, all of a sudden, he figured it out. Why he had been chosen for this project. They assumed that Ethan, being the rule follower that he is, would sweep everything under the rug and ignore the red flags that were blaring in his face. They figured that he would do anything he could to not make waves in the company. So, they gave him the job. He wrestled with his conscience, torn between his duty to his job and a sense of what is right. He literally thought about nothing but this project for days. And after many sleepless nights, he finally came to the realization that he knew what he had to do, regardless of the consequences he might face. The next day, Ethan inconspicuously copied all of the documents and data he had found onto a USB drive. His heart pounded as he bypassed security protocols, knowing full well the risk that he was taking. As soon as he was done, he told his boss that he felt sick and he was taking the rest of the day off. On his drive home, he called up a close buddy of his, Aaron. Aaron was a renowned journalist. He was well known and trusted for his years of credible work. Ethan told him that he had found something at work and he needed him to meet him at his house ASAP. When Aaron arrived, Ethan showed him everything. He showed him all the files that he had saved and he explained what he thought that they were going to do with this technology. Aaron's face grew a look of pure horror. He felt a lump grow in his throat as he realized what Ethan was about to ask him to do. He wanted Aaron to leak the story to everybody. Ethan explained that public exposure would be the only way to hold the government accountable and force them to reconsider the use of such a dangerous technology. At first, Aaron completely refused to help. He said that there was no way that he was going to put his name and his life on the line like that. But after he thought of the dangers of this technology and how it could eventually affect his family and his children, he decided to take a leap of faith and to write the story up. Aaron didn't sleep at all that entire night. He started writing his piece and he literally didn't stop until it was 100% complete. Then, 2 days later, it was in the news and released out to the entire public. They both waited in anticipation, waiting for the world to react. They envisioned headlines screaming the truth, protests demanding a change, and a global awakening to the dangers, but reality took a completely different turn. The people didn't respond with outrage or fear, but instead, they were skeptic and most didn't even believe any of it. Everyone completely dismissed the entire thing as a conspiracy theory. The idea of controlling weather seemed way too far-fetched, and they couldn't wrap their heads around it. So instead of changing their outlook, they completely ignored the entire thing and continued living on in their safe little bubble. They were in complete shock. How in the hell could nobody care about this project? How did nobody feel a sense of urgency? All Ethan could think about was his job and how his bosses were going to react to all of this. The department head was enraged when he discovered the article. He knew that he had to do major damage control before people actually started to believe it. So he seized the opportunity to denounce the leak as a ridiculous fabrication made up by a disgruntled employee who was seeking attention. Instead of sparking a revolution, Ethan's discoveries were ridiculed and mocked, and all of the documents that were leaked as proof were thrown aside only to exist in conspiracy forums. Ethan watched in despair as his life's most significant act was taken as a complete joke. He was immediately fired from his position and accused of breaching national security. But that wasn't the worst of it. He had to go to trial where he faced 10 years of imprisonment. Realizing the gravity of his situation, Ethan knew that compliance would not help him this time. That night, he made the most challenging decision of his entire life. He decided to pack up his family and he fled the country under the cover of darkness. They left everything behind, disappearing into the shadows of the world. Ethan is currently living in an undisclosed place with his family to this very day, as he tries to move on from all of this and live a happy life. But honestly, it's nearly impossible for him to be happy anymore. Every time a natural disaster strikes, he can't help but wonder if it's the works of Project Climate Change. He lives in constant fear, wondering if his town will be the next one struck by weather. The thought of this failed attempt to expose the truth torments him to this very day. He tosses and turns at night, wondering how can people be so blind? He tried to warn them, but in a world where people chose comfort over truth, his warning was lost in a sea of disbelief. As he lives in hiding, the world carries on, oblivious to the power that looms silently over their heads. His only hope is that one day, people will wake up and realize life isn't what it seems. So take this story as a lesson and a warning to always critically think and always look for the bigger picture. Because your safe little bubble too can be popped and your entire world will be flipped upside down. And the only way that you can protect yourself is to stay vigilant, keep your eyes open, and to never discredit anything. Even the wildest fantasies can be reality. And nowadays, it seems like anything's possible. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to smash that like button and put your opinions in the comments below. And don't forget to follow my page for more awesome content like this. I'm still in the process of growing my following, so every follow counts and every interaction pushes my video farther in the For You page. So I really appreciate your guys' interactions and I love engaging with you guys. So keep it up and make sure to stay tuned because I have way more awesome content like this on the way.